5 films and the animated series from the Underworld franchise have all focused on the long-standing conflict between werewolves and vampires. This immortal feud has been entertaining fantasy fans since 2003, and today we're going to explore 50 fascinating facts about the Underworld franchise that every fan should know. We're all set over here, but before we get started, wait, have you subscribed to our wonderful channel yet? If not, you should do it now. Quick, it's free, we promise. Now, let's descend to the world of vampires, werewolves, and hybrids. Controversial claims of copying. When Underworld was released in 2003, it was met with a lot of criticism. Many critics believed that it was just a bad ripoff of the 1999 sci-fi movie The Matrix. The basis of this criticism is ridiculous, however, as it was mainly because of the black latex suit Selene, the vampire warrior, wears, which is similar to what Neo and Trinity wore in The Matrix. Critics also drew comparisons to the special effects and sets of The Crow, a 1994 flick. Director Len Wiseman didn't take well to the criticism, and in the DVD commentary for the film, he sarcastically asked whether he had to put a vampire in a fuchsia suit instead of his characteristic black. Kate Beckinsale, the actress who played Selene, said she wasn't too concerned about the accusations, as there were very few movies similar to Underworld and it was bound to encourage some comparisons. A problem with the law. White Wolf Inc., an American book and role-playing game publisher, sued the movie for copyright infringement as they believed Underworld copied their role-playing games, novels, and even a short story. Created by Mark Rain Hagen, The World of Darkness was a series of 5 games all released between 1991 and 95, where vampires and werewolves existed in secrecy just like they do in Underworld. The lawsuit claimed that Underworld ripped the idea off from specifically 2 games, Vampire the Masquerade and Werewolf the Apocalypse. White Wolf Inc. wasn't the only party complaining, though. They were also sued by Nancy A. Collins, who claimed her 1994 short story, Love of Monsters, and her Sonia Blue novels were also major inspirations for the movie. They claimed that 60 unique characteristics were copied, including the incredible speed of vampires, the disappearing ability of vampires, werewolves, and vampire hybrids, and the hybrid beings called abominations. The lawsuit soon ended with a hush-hush settlement. A romantic affair. While Selene was a werewolf-hating vampire hunter in the movie, the actress for Selene, Kate Beckinsale, was actually romantically involved with a werewolf. Michael Sheen, the actor who portrayed the vengeful werewolf baddie, Lucien, bewitched the actress with his theatrical talent during their rehearsal for the play The Seagull, where Beckinsale appeared as Nina in her first professional stage appearance. She was responsible for Sheen landing the role of Lucien as she convinced the director, Len Wiseman, to cast him in the film. Beckinsale and Sheen's daughter, Lily Mo Sheen, also has a small appearance as the younger Selene in Underworld Evolution, the second installment in the Underworld franchise that was released in 2006. Though the relationship between Sheen and Beckinsale splintered later on, the Underworld movies and the universe colluded to give her another chance at love in the form of Len Wiseman. Wiseman and Beckinsale tied the knot in 2004, but he made his love for her clear during the filming of Underworld Evolution, as her chair did not have her name, but My Sweetie written on it with tiny hearts all around. But like a werewolf-vampire pairing, their love was doomed and they divorced in 2016. A comic book, but make it a movie. The creators of Underworld, especially Len Wiseman, wanted it to be a comic book style film. He believed that making a movie look like a comic book visually would help increase the mystery behind the plot and the characters. They decided to reduce the number of colors in each scene and keep a regular palette of blues and blacks. According to Kevin Grevious, the writer of the movie, he found inspiration for Selene in the X-Men comics. Comic nerds will remember the immortal daughter of Titans, the Black Queen Selene Gallio, created by Chris Claremont and Sal Buscema. This X-Men villain, just like Selene, is a vampire, but she has psychic powers as well and is a prominent member of the Hellfire Club and a sworn enemy of the X-Men. A supernatural starcrossed romance. Len Wiseman, previous to Underworld, had only directed music videos and worked as a property assistant on movies. His first chance was given in the form of a studio meeting where the studio demanded a werewolf movie. Wiseman approached his friend, actor, and director Kevin Grevioux to brainstorm a plan, but neither of them had any interest in a werewolf movie. Grevioux suggested a cross between The Blade Runner and The Howling. The idea was to create a character who went after werewolves. He also decided to throw the popular Shakespearean drama Romeo and Juliet into the mix, suggesting a star-crossed love story. To emulate the Montagues versus Capulets dynamic with the werewolves, they introduced a rival supernatural race, the vampires. Wiseman wasn't crazy about the idea and thought it was way too cheesy to make a decent film of, but Grevioux convinced him. They then took on Danny McBride, the stunt performer come screenwriter, and began building up the story with Romeo and Juliet as a base. The first thing they did was throw out the word werewolf as they hated it and replaced it with Lycan. The star-crossed romance was also used to portray the social stigma associated with interracial dating. Grevious's experiences with biracial children and interracial dating had forced him to consider the double standards of society and the casual hatred people employed, and that translated into the werewolf-vampire couples we see on screen. Bill Nighy, the Tired Guy. One of the most laudable performances in the film is by Bill Nighy, who played Victor, the warlock vampire who rose to power as one of the three elders. As you might remember, each vampire elder rules for a century before going into hibernation for 200 years and giving up the reign to the next elder in line. After a wayward vampire, Craven, plans a coup, Celine is forced to wake up Victor from his deep sleep well before he's supposed to. Shooting this scene was a cosmetic nightmare for Bill Nighy, as he had the toughest makeup out of everybody in the film. He had to initially endure long and obviously uncomfortable hours to have his head and body molded for prosthetics, and then he had to spend 6 torturous hours in the makeup chair. When asked about the process in an interview for BBC, Nighy replied that it was an unspeakable experience and that he would never allow himself to go through that ever again. He even called the process medieval. Despite all of this, Nighy explained that the biggest challenge during filming wasn't the cosmetics, but the self-control he had to exercise to not laugh in between takes. We get the challenge though, as it's pretty hard not to break into peals of laughter when hissing in a guy's face. Nevertheless, Nighy persisted and people affectionately called him Rockstar Vampire on set. Practical and realistic werewolves. Patrick Tatopoulos, whose work you might recognize from movies like Independence Day and Venom, was tasked with creating the special effects for werewolves. He crafted special foam latex bodysuits and stilts specifically for each actor. He created the wolf heads by inserting yak hair, one strand at a time, with lips and muzzles that could be controlled using animatronics. Though the head had no opening, a live video feed was inserted and a comms unit helped the puppeteers to talk and receive cues. Each werewolf required 4 people to handle it. Producer Richard Wright was super proud of the werewolves though, and he claimed people would run away after taking just one look at them. Digital visual effects were needed to show the werewolf transformation. Visual effects artists combined the recording of actors in front of a green screen with the werewolf-suited actor to show a morphing scene. Though Len Wiseman was hoping for more of an animatronic effect, some had to be replaced with CGI as practical effects looked clunky and ineffective. As the Underworld falls down. If you're a fan of 80s horror films or vampire films, you'll remember the 1983 erotic movie The Hunger, directed by Tony Scott. David Bowie dazzled as a vampire preying on a young doctor with his blood-sucking partner. Though Bowie had a lot of excitement about the film, he called it perversely bloody. As an allusion to this role, Wiseman hoped to get a cameo out of the iconic musician in a scene where the vampires feast. Though the singer might have been interested, due to some scheduling conflicts and lack of time, the cameo was a no-go. But you can still spot some interesting cameos. Danny McBride appears on screen as Mason, a vampire, while Grevioux takes on the role of the deep-voiced Rays. You can also catch a glimpse of Wiseman's hands as he loads bullets into a gun. Keeping it family-friendly. Kate Beckinsale swore off nudity very early in her career. This, paired with the fact that she wanted Celine to not just be a sex object but a real heroine, caused Beckinsale to ask the creators to cut many scenes that she considered offensive. She said that her tight suit already sexualized her enough. One scene required Celine to walk out of a shower naked, but she explained that in movies like Die Hard, you don't get to see naked shots of Bruce Willis, and drew attention to the double standards of Hollywood and the pervasive male gaze. Nearly 2 hours worth of footage was removed from the original cut of Underworld Evolution. One scene in particular contained steamy scenes of Celine making love to Michael. Fearing that the movie would be rated NC-17 and agreeing to Beckinsale's refusal to be seen completely naked, Wiseman reduced the scene, deciding to fade to black when scenes involved more nudity. Wiseman teased the DVD release, hinting that it would have the uncut version of the Celine and Michael scene, but that never happened. For Underworld Awakening, the original idea was for Celine to be stalked by a mutated Lycan monster that crashed open her cryogenic tank and went on a rampage. As she just emerged from the tank, she was supposed to be naked and weak, but due to Beckinsale's demand, the storyline was changed to Eve meeting her after she woke up, and her outfit would be immediately available. Costume conundrums. Kate Beckinsale did a lot of work to be the perfect actress to portray Celine. She went through rigorous training to throw good punches and handle medieval weaponry and guns. Though Beckinsale loves playing the tragic Celine, she admitted that she could not care less about the latex catsuit the character wore. She called it a condom with arms and said it was extremely squeaky. She didn't like the way it accentuated and emphasized her behind and required the help of another person to get the costume on and tighten the corset. Beckinsale also had to follow a diet of just cabbage and chicken to slim her down enough to be able to squeeze into the suit. The cold temperatures of Budapest gave her a horrible bout of pneumonia, which incidentally helped her keep the weight off. It was even worse when the temperatures were high, as she would get stuck in the costume due to her sweat and needed help peeling it off. The worst scenes to film were the ones where she had to run with the coat on, as she claimed it was a nightmare. Cool getaways and myths behind it. Let us set the scene. Celine follows Michael to his apartment in order to find out why her enemies, the Lycans, are following him. Her curiosity overrides her concern for safety, and she's caught unawares when a group of Lycans ambush and corner her. But Celine, with her quick thinking, cocks her Walther P99s to shoot the floorboards she's standing on till they give way, making a safe escape from her werewolf foes. A similar stunt can be seen in Nemesis, the 1992 movie. Mythbusters, the popular reality show that tested out rumors, movie scenes, internet videos, and myths, decided to test out the scene in a 2-hour special episode, Mega Movie Myths. The result? It's plain movie magic and nothing else. They concluded that it was stupid to shoot the floorboards you're standing on, as there might be some dangerous ricochets and flying debris that could injure you before your escape. They were right on the money, as Kate Beckinsale later revealed in the DVD commentary that her face was riddled with shrapnel and she cried after the shoot as it was way too painful. Though Celine only shot 2 20-round clips of the Walther's P99s to the floor, the Mythbusters crew unloaded 360 rounds of ammunition from a 12-gauge shotgun, and an automatic MP5 failed to break the wooden floor. The failed Daywalker crossover. The creators of Underworld wanted Celine to interact with the badass Dampier warrior Blade. They were pretty serious about it too, and they approached Marvel Studios, hoping to create a crossover with Blade, portrayed by Wesley Snipes. Kate Beckinsale talked about the attempt at New York Comic-Con while participating in the panel for Underworld Blood Wars, but she also disappointed fans in the same breath as she revealed that Marvel Studios wasn't very eager about the collaboration and wanted to have their options open to create something new with Blade on their own terms. Microbial roots. Actor, screenwriter, and director Kevin Grievous was on his path to becoming a genetic engineer as he had graduated with a degree in microbiology from Howard University in 1987. He had minored in chemistry and physics and had even started attending graduate school when the siren song of cinema pulled him to Los Angeles and he dropped out. His knowledge would not go to waste though, as he decided to twist the vampire and werewolf lore to fit a more scientific story, divorcing it from mysticism. Grievous attributed Lycanism and vampirism to a viral infection and changed some traditional rules. For example, werewolves could transform at will and had no fear of the full moon, while vampires were visible in mirrors. Homage to Dracula. The most important family in the Underworld franchise is the Corvinus clan. This clan had a special strain in their bloodline that reacted with the plague virus to create the first immortal, Alexander Corvinus. His sons became the first vampire and first werewolf after they were bitten by a bat and a wolf respectively. Although the blood strain is completely fictional, the name Corvinus is inspired by a real family in history. The most famous and prominent person in this historical Corvinus family was Matthias Corvinus, who was the King of Bohemia and Duke of Austria. Matthias the Just was a political ally of the Prince of Wallachia, Vlad the Impaler. Does that ring a bell? It should, because Vlad the Impaler was none other than Vlad Dracula, the inspiration for Bram Stoker's popular classic novel, Dracula, which pulled vampires into the limelight. This isn't the only reference to Dracula either, as you can see a painting of Vlad the Impaler on the wall of the castle in Underworld Blood Wars. Not just a director. Director Len Wiseman is not just a good director, but an amazing artist as well. Kate Beckinsale initially didn't want to do the role of Selene, as she had established herself as a serious actor with roles in historical and period dramas. She wasn't sure if starring in a werewolf and vampire movie would be the right fit for her. Len Wiseman requested she look through the script, urging her to at least look at the character drawings he had sent of Selene. Beckinsale noticed that Selene's likeness was very similar to hers and ended up agreeing to the role, believing that it would help her shake up her profile. The drawings also impressed Scott Speedman, the actor who portrayed Michael Corvin. Even before reading the script, Speedman was drawn to the drawings and was blown away by the visual style of Wiseman. He later admitted in a 2023 interview with Vulture that he had believed the movie would be a commercial hit based on the drawings. What's in a name? Out of all 5 films, the one movie that went through a lot of changes was Underworld Awakening. For starters, the movie was actually going to be called Underworld New Dawn before going through several writers who remained unnamed and uncredited. The nefarious werewolf organization, Antigen, was called Biocom, and the daughter of Selene and Michael was called Nyssa instead of Eve. There were some changes made to the timeline as well. Originally, Biocom had imprisoned Selene for 15 years and her daughter was 14 years old, but it was later changed to 12 years of imprisonment, with Eve being 11 years old. Later scripts dropped the character of Detective Sebastian, and Biocom wanted to use Nyssa as a breeder for super hybrids. Thankfully, they scrapped this storyline and laid emphasis on Eve's DNA. The plot kept changing at the hands of each new screenwriter, and even at the time of filming, a concrete storyline had not been finalized.
You must be Selene. Does the great death dealer truly come in peace?
Nordic and mythical roots. The Swedish actor Peter Anderson plays the role of Vidar in Underworld Blood Wars. Vidar is the co-founder and leader of the Nordic Coven and the father of Lena, the greatest warrior of the Coven. His name is derived from Vidar or Vithar, the god of vengeance and son of Odin in Norse mythology. According to Nordic myth, Vithar would avenge his father's death by killing Fenrir, the wolf son of the trickster god Loki, to bring about Ragnarok, the end of the world. The name is thus an allusion to the fact that Vidar is going to be a terrifying warrior against the werewolves. No hairy women here! You might have observed that though there are many male werewolves and female vampires, we rarely get to see any female Lycans. Though some female Lycans are mentioned in the novels, there are hardly any shown in the movies. Director Anna Forrester joked that it was probably because male directors were scared of portraying hairy women because they might look ugly. Fans have come up with a lot of theories to explain the skewed male-to-female ratio in Lycans. Some believe that after William, the elder werewolf, was imprisoned, Victor became responsible for the remaining werewolves, most of whom he imprisoned. He might have made sure that no more women were converted to stop the number of werewolves from multiplying. Either way, you don't see any named female Lycans in the movies. Happy dogs, happy shots! At around 37 minutes after the movie begins, we see Michael Corvin being chased by rabid dogs after he escapes the vampire mansion. Unfortunately, director Len Wiseman couldn't find any trained dogs that would attack or at least pretend to attack Scott Speedman and had to settle for the available dogs who were playful and docile. So, Wiseman shot the dogs running after Speedman playfully and then added the sounds to make it seem like they were barking at him viciously. But if you look closely, you'll notice the happy doggies wagging their tails and enjoying their shoot. Inspirations behind the Vampire Elder. Marcus Corvinus, the first vampire in the Underworld universe, might have been inspired by Marcus Valerius Messala Corvinus, a Roman general of the Wallachian-Hungarian family of Corvin. Matthias Corvinus, who we spoke about earlier, might have been the descendant of Marcus Valerius. There's an interesting story as to how the general got the name Corvinus, which is derived from the Latin word for raven. In 349 BC, a barbarian who was gigantic challenged the general. Marcus Valerius was hugely disadvantaged in strength and stature, but miraculously, a raven came to the support of Valerius and perched on his helmet. It attacked the barbarian and blinded him, helping Marcus Valerius gain an easy victory. Destined actress. Rona Mitra had initially auditioned to be Celine in the original Underworld movie, but she lost the chance to Kate Beckinsale. She got another chance to be in the franchise, though, as she was cast as Sonia, the daughter of Victor, who fell in love with Lucian and suffered the wrath of her father. The filmmakers were a bit reluctant to cast her, as she looked a lot like Kate Beckinsale, but that worked out perfectly for the storyline, as Victor had only converted Celine because she resembled his daughter. Not only was the resemblance okay, it was important to the plot. Spot the Scream! In 1951, sound effects were being recorded for the movie Distant Drums, and voice actor Sheb Woolley was given the prompt, a man screaming after being bitten by an alligator. The fourth take of the scream was recorded, and motion picture sound designer Ben Burt named the scream the Wilhelm Scream after he reused it in the 1953 movie The Charge at Feather River for a character named Private Wilhelm. The scream became iconic and has been used in over 400 movies and TV shows, almost becoming a tradition for sound designers. You can catch the Wilhelm scream in Underworld: Rise of the Lycans, when the Lycans attack vampire guards after climbing over the wall. The more the merrier. Due to budget constraints, only 2 Lycan costumes were made for the first Underworld movie. For Underworld Evolution, creators could afford 3 more costumes for William, the first werewolf, and other original Lycans. The special effects team worked resourcefully in Underworld: Rise of the Lycans and created simple and less advanced costumes for the Lycans that appeared out of focus in the shot, and also reused costumes from the 2002 werewolf movie Dog Soldiers, increasing the total number of werewolf costumes available to 14. Previously, the suited-up Lycans were played by Brian Steele and Kurt Carley, who got a chance to show their faces in this movie, as they also appear as the human forms of 2 Lycans. No love for Marcus. Every single official credit of the movie, the official website, production notes, and every novelization spells the name of Marcus with a C, but in the crawl prologue of Underworld Evolution, his name was spelled with a K. This was not the only time Marcus was wrong. Even in the movies, he's given no respect. He gets betrayed by Victor, and members of his coven don't even bat an eye when he dies. When Victor was killed, the vampires all banded together to search for Celine to punish her for his death, but when Marcus dies, it's just business as usual. While many theorize this was probably because Victor was the one who converted all the soldiers, and he was the only one who had earned their respect, others believe that the vampires too were tired of his antics and had forgiven Celine as her crime was justified. Awakening New Troubles. Mans Marland and Bjorn Stein, the directors of Underworld Awakening, revealed that they had gone through a lot of trouble to finish filming. They made the mistake of starting principal photography before the filming was completed, which brought up many troubles later. Though the plot was in development since 2009, nobody was happy with the script, and Wiseman and producer Gary Lucchesi had to be brought in to help Marland and Stein finalize the plot points even after filming had began. There was a serious tone shift as well, because the first 2 movies weren't taken too seriously and had a bit of a tongue-in-cheek element. Though it wasn't the intention of the creators to make a completely dark and serious movie, that is what they ended up with after so many writer changes. James McQuaid, the second unit director and visual effects supervisor, was also not given a lot of time to design and work on the CGI creatures, as the script remained unfinished and he could not start till after post-production. Quick bucks. In 2003, Underworld was released a bit earlier in Canada than it was in the USA. The president of Screen Gems, the production company behind the film, was so impressed by the ticket sales that he didn't even wait for the box office statistics in the US and greenlit a sequel and a prequel for the movie. This would indeed be a wise decision, as Underworld gathered over $95 million in box office collections, more than triple their budget of $22 million. Hope for more. Everyone believed that Kate Beckinsale had finished portraying the vampire hunter after Underworld Blood Wars, but Len Wiseman, director of the first 2 films and producer of the latter 3, had teased a 6th film or perhaps a TV show by saying that there was still interest in the movies and something was under work. Although he said he couldn't talk about it, he revealed that there was a future for the franchise. Kate Beckinsale, however, is not too eager to don the latex catsuit again, and who can blame her? That thing doesn't look comfy. Beckinsale said that she had been in enough of those movies and didn't want to return. Only time will tell what new story will emerge out of the Underworld franchise. A bit wet behind the ears. Len Wiseman was in London holding auditions to cast for Underworld when he met a lot of character actors that he had seen on screen and loved. When he saw Bill Nighy audition from behind the camera, he was immediately taken by his performance and excitedly told the studio that he had found a guy that everyone was going to be impressed with. Wiseman genuinely believed that he had discovered Bill Nighy, who by then was a prominent figure in the National Theatre and had starred in many movies and TV shows. Looking back, Wiseman confessed that he was extremely naive.
UV rounds. How long have you been in the business?
Lycan weaponry. You might know by now that the vampires use silver nitrate to subdue and kill werewolves, but do you know what weapons the Lycans use? Most Lycans are armed with a Desert Eagle Mark 7 plated with nickel and chambered in a .44 Magnum. As vampires can't come out in sunlight, the Lycans have found a way to weaponize sunlight. What they do is fill hollow bullets with a special irradiated fluid that releases ultraviolet light to shoot at vampires. Pretty neat, right? Vampires suck. We strongly believe that parodies of a movie only increase our love for the original. If you agree with us, you should check out The Rething, a 2010 radio and audiobook adaptation of Simon Brett's 1975 book Cast, In Order of Disappearance. It starred Bill Nighy, the rock star vampire, as Charles Paris, an amateur sleuth and actor hired to play a vampire called Zazabek, who works in middle management in an organized vampire society. It's Martin's World. A weird coincidence is that every single electrician who worked on the movie Underworld Blood Wars was named Martin. The movie had 4 rigging electricians: Martin Culhavy, Martin Rain Sr., Martin Rain Jr., and Martin Bublik. Another fun fact is that this movie had a total of 26 Martins, which included assistant director Martin Oktabek, set dressers Martin Schneider and Martin Svanderlik, and visual effects supervisor Seth Martin. Underworld. Resident Evil. Capcom's 1996 survival game Resident Evil launched an entire franchise, including 6 live-action movies and a reboot. Resident Evil deals with fighting an evil capitalistic corporation whose inventions trigger a zombie apocalypse. Similar to Underworld, Resident Evil has a strong female protagonist. During the promotion for Underworld Blood Wars, producer David Kern shared his thoughts about joining the Underworld universe with the Resident Evil universe. Director Paul W.S. Anderson was also asked about this potential collab at Comic-Con 2012, and he voiced his reluctance at the idea, as both franchises weren't owned by the same company. Fantastic film firsts! Underworld Blood Wars was the first film in the franchise to be released more than 3 years after the previous one, and the first film to be rated a 15 certificate in the United Kingdom, as all the other movies had been rated an 18. It's also the first time Tywin Lannister, Randall Tarley, and Edmure Tully from Game of Thrones shared scenes together. The actors Charles Dance, James Faulkner, and Tobias Menzies actually didn't share any screen time while on Game of Thrones, but they did work together again in this film. Underworld Rise of the Lycans is the first movie if you decide to watch Underworld chronologically. This was also the first movie to not star Kate Beckinsale as Selene, and the first not to open at #1 in the domestic box office as Paul Blart Mall Cop climbed the box office list. The first Underworld film to not have Bill Nighy, Michael Sheen, and Brian Steele reprising their roles is Underworld Awakening, though they do appear in flashbacks. Awakening is the first film in the series to be made for Real 3D and IMAX 3D. This is also the only movie to not include the musical genius of Paul Haslinger and to not be screened ahead for critics. The animated show. Many people, even fans of Underworld, are unaware of the animated adaptation Underworld Endless War. The show has 3 episodes, each around 5 minutes long, and it was originally aired in December 2011 with the Underworld trilogy on Blu-ray. Paul Haslinger, who was also behind the music and soundtrack for Underworld Rise of the Lycans, composed the music for the series. Bloody commitments! Michael Sheen was working simultaneously on the 2008 movie Frost/Nixon and Underworld Rise of the Lycans. Director Ron Howard requested Sheen for a quick moment to record a dialogue for the movie while he was filming. Sheen, covered in fake blood, went to his trailer to record the dialogue and asked someone to take a photo of him to send to the director. Ron Howard was impressed and printed out the photo to be framed and displayed. Werewolf Parentage. Though Lucien's mother is shown as a werewolf, there's no mention of his father, forcing fans to use their imagination. There are two popular theories regarding Lucien's parentage. According to one, Lucien's dad was another werewolf, and it was logical that Lucien too was one, while the other theory says that both Lucien's mom and dad used to be human, and when Lucien's mom was pregnant with him, she was bitten by a werewolf, which means that Lucien is half human and half Lycan. Fans mostly like the second theory, but what's your opinion? We'd love to hear it in the comments down below. Behind-the-scenes shenanigans. Underworld Evolution has a scene where Michael and Celine look at each other with eyes full of longing and love. While shooting the scene, director Len Wiseman began to blast Everything I Do It For You, the song by Bryan Adams, surprising the cast and crew. Everyone broke down into laughter after hearing it. Love at First Bite. Tony Curran, the actor who plays Marcus Corvinus, liked his fangs so much that he asked to wear the vampire fangs all the time. He included this request in his contract and wore the fangs outside of filming as well. This is not the only time Curran has portrayed a bloodsucker, as he was a pure-blooded character named Priest in the 2002 movie Blade 2. Vampiric forms. Marcus Corvinus' form as a vampire was heavily influenced by Reaver demons, characters from the tabletop trading card game Magic the Gathering, released in 1993. The Reaver demon has horns, wide black wings, and a humanoid form. Impressive actors. Theo James dazzled the filmmakers in his role as David so much that they decided to call him back. The scene where David is brought back to life was supposed to be the last scene, but you can see him again in the final battle. Blondes don't have the most fun. In Underworld, we see flashbacks of Sonia and her hair is blonde, though in the movie it's black. Underworld Rise of the Lycans is supposed to be the prequel to the movie, but her hair is black there as well. To fix this error, the 2017 Underworld remaster swapped the flashback scenes with scenes from Rise of the Lycans. Immortal connections. Anthony Head is well known for his role as Rupert Giles, a parapsychologist who's a part of the Watchers, a secret organization that aims to remove evil supernatural forces from the world in the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Ironically, his daughter, Daisy Head, plays a vampire named Alexia in Underworld Blood Wars. Inside voices. Actor Kevin Grievous was often accused of changing or modulating his voice to play the vampire Reyes, as it was so deep, but it was actually just his voice. Inversely, Zita Gorog, who played Amelia, needed her lines to be dubbed over as the microphones couldn't pick up her voice. Growing keys. If you noticed something off about the key around Lucien's neck, you probably have super sharp vision. The key was actually doubled in size due to unknown reasons. Most popular scene. The most popular scene in the 2003 Underworld movie, at least according to director Len Wiseman, is the scene of Erica hissing at Michael Corvin in the Vampire Mansion. The teeth caps worn by the actress who portrayed Erica, Sophia Miles, were the same size as those of the rest of the cast, but for some reason they looked longer. Though Wiseman commented about this confusing fact, he had no idea what caused it. Missed roles. While Michael Sheen and Wentworth Miller were both in the run to portray Michael Corvin, Scott Speedman won the role, and they had to settle for the role of Lucien and Dr. Adam. Halle Berry, who you might recognize as Catwoman or Storm, was also considered for the role of Celine, but we're glad that it went to Beckinsale, as we can hardly imagine the franchise without her. Love is blind. Keen-eyed viewers might notice that while Celine is making love to Michael, her eye color changes from greenish-brown to icy blue. This might be an homage to the 1992 film Innocent Blood, where the protagonist, a French vampire by the name of Marie, changes eye colors whenever she gets intimate with Joe, her beau. Halfsies. During most of the fights in Underworld Rise of the Lycans, you can only see the Lycans lose the top half of their head. That's because, due to budget issues, the special effects crew had to reuse cosmetics that were used for William, who was killed after he lost the top of his head. A positive title. Though the title Underworld has very dark and hopeless connotations, the movie was translated into Brazilian Portuguese as Angels of the Night or Night Angels, giving a more positive and hopeful outlook for the title. Switching teams. Lucien truly got a bad hand in life. He was born enslaved, fell in love with his vampire captor's daughter, got tortured for it, and witnessed the death of his love and the mother of his unborn child, and it's no wonder that he hates all the vampires so much. But it's ironic that Michael Sheen switched teams and portrayed a vampire in the Twilight series. Marvelous verdict. These are all the fascinating facts about the Underworld franchise that we were able to scrounge up. Did we miss one? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to give us a thumbs up. We'll be back with another video soon, but in the meantime, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.